Okay, welcome back to EHour. Today we are graced by another founder. Our founder today is a little bit of a different situation, a little bit of a different stage. However, there are some similarities that I think you might find with him. Treats challenges as opportunities, scratches at interests and curiosities that he has to try to uncover more and get deeper on what it is that drives him. He took some big opportunities along the way and took some big risks along the way to bring his venture to bear. And most importantly, as you kind of heard with Inder as well, he recognized the opportunities and the needs and the market demands to pivot what he was doing and change course with who we thought otherwise a customer was or a market was or a base was. It's a two-time U of M alum, MEC. Where's my MEC students out there? Yeah, okay, a couple of you out there, cool. And he's leading an early stage startup that is at a point where it's closing its pre-seed round. Please welcome Greg Auerbach.
Nice to see everyone.
Feel free to.
Perfect. All right, so here's my path. It's definitely not a direct path. And you might be wondering, how does someone go from Michigan football recruiting to fashion tech? And I mean, personally, I was never expecting it, and neither was my wife, who would constantly tease me about what I would wear when we first started dating. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'll talk to you about what got me to where I am today, and the passion that was really developed along my journey. So it all started at Michigan, specifically the Michigan football department, where I had a passion for playing sports. I was an athlete my entire life. I had an injury my senior year of high school, where pretty much my playing days were numbered. And I ended up trying out for the football team. I made the practice squad my junior year, and I was like, I can't do the 5 a.m.s. I can't do these workouts. I asked Coach Harbaugh at the time, I'm like, is there any way that I can be part of the program but not on practice squad, because engineering's pretty rigorous and there's too much stuff that I have to do. I ultimately was offered a position within the recruiting department, where it pretty much laid the foundation for my first venture. I built a platform that allowed us to recruit faster, smarter, find athletes that we wouldn't normally find. Two key people in the late 2010s, you might know, Zach Charbonnet and Hassan Haskins were actually some of the two direct people from the platform that I'd built for the team. After graduating, I was like, I had too many cold winters here. I'm sure you all know exactly what I mean. I ultimately moved to LA, where I thought, the sunshine, warm weather, beaches were exactly what I needed. I took a job at Northrop Grumman, where my mastery of Excel allowed me to rise up the ranks pretty fast. And it was there within 4 months, I was leading the financial modeling of a $72 billion project. I was also managing about 3 different teams nationwide, where I was really happy with what I had done, but it was that moment where I'm like, I learned a really tough lesson in life, which is you can't manufacture passion. And there's absolutely nothing in life that's worse than realizing everything that you're doing, you just are like, I'm okay. I don't mind it. But I also am not waking up raring to go and thinking, this is what I want to do with my life. And so I went back to my first genuine passion, which is athletics, and I started the athletic recruiting platform, All Athlete, where at All Athlete we built an AI measuring tool that was used by thousands of college coaches, about 800 different college sports teams across the country. And
When you say we, that's more like an I, right?
yes. Well, by the time All Athlete built the AI measuring, had about 3 other people on staff. And it was me and one other person that pretty much built the entire measuring system. And in 2.5 years of being available, we facilitated over $100 million in athletic scholarships. But it was capped off with these AI measurements. And we were really able to grow from that. Same time, I met my wife, and she was a child actor. She went to Parsons School of Design in New York. She was fashion was her passion, essentially. And as we started building a life together, we realized that we could merge our 2 passions and our 2 strengths, one of which was this AI measuring technology and her fashion e-commerce expertise. And that's when we co-founded Fytted, being able to pivot and create this company that is able to take 50 real-time body measurements, bust, waist, inseam. I got my ring using the app as well, and be able to really build something that we were both equally extremely passionate about, which is incredibly rewarding. But it brings me to why this isn't a direct path. It's really all about your passion. It's what kept me going from really hating my job, building these ICBMs. We got a $72 billion contract from the U.S. Department of Defense. It was the thing that just kept me going. And being an entrepreneur, there's so many times life's just gonna kick you. It's gonna be absolutely, it's one of the hardest things to do. You're gonna fail, you're gonna miss out on some really exciting things in life. But it's because of the fact that you are extremely passionate about what you're doing. And it's very lonely, it's very isolating, and you feel like the world is against you, and you need something to keep pushing. And it's also okay to fail. That's what I've learned a lot. Failure isn't really a stepping it's not an endpoint. It's a stepping stone in actually improving everything in terms of learning. Most of us are failures. Just everyone's gonna fail. The best entrepreneurs out there fail. But it's because of the fact that they take what they've learned when they fail to grow and to keep pushing, keep moving. And that passion is the thing that is going to push you further. Anyone know J.M. Barrie? Author of Peter Pan, if anyone. We'll bring it up in a little bit on why. But it really is a thing that just, it keeps you, you have to be aware that you're gonna fail. And be okay with that because you have to just keep pushing. Speaking of J.M. Barrie, you have to also be willing to live in Neverland because of the fact that this is a dream that you're chasing. Whether it's the specific project, the business that you're chasing, you have to be able to dream because, and I live by this, it's that if you want to achieve something, you have to be able to envision it. But you can achieve it, you can achieve the things that other people can't imagine. But keep pushing, keep chasing, and let your passion really drive you. But the main things are that I found in my life is that you have to be passionate about things that are who you are, things that will wake you up in the morning and really urge you to get out of bed when it's, Ann Arbor winters, -20 degrees and snowing. You just want to, you want to do something for the rest of your life where you're actually thrilled to wake up the next day. And then what's something that brings you joy? For me, fashion is not the thing that brings me joy, at least not at the beginning. It is now. But being able to do something with my wife every single day in terms of building a company together, building a family together, building a life together, is something I could never have asked for in my wildest dreams. And it is an absolute joy. And yeah, those are the main questions to really ask yourself.
So the joy that you're getting now from working with your wife and building a life and passionate company together, let's take that back and rewind that. Before you knew her, you were getting joy by otherwise working on the U of M athletic team, the U of M football team.
Yes, yeah.
Students, when Greg and I were talking this morning, every now and again when I'm talking to an entrepreneur, they tell me a tidbit of a story about an experience they had in the founding that I'm like, oh, that's it. Students need to hear that, okay? Greg has a story that I want you to hear because I want to hear what you otherwise take out of that. To bring you up to speed to said story time, Greg's a high school athlete, as you talked about. You injured yourself. You weren't able to go ahead and get recruited the way that you wanted to. There was no ability to otherwise find the people at the universities who were trying to recruit high school. It wasn't easy to connect with them. You come on campus, start working in the recruiting team begrudgingly, and you realize what?
I realized that it wasn't the fact that I couldn't find anyone to reach out to, is that the system itself was just incredibly overworked, and the Michigan football recruiting department specifically, which spent over $100 million every year, 15 million of which just on recruiting, it was all done on paper.
And this isn't 1998. This isn't 2005. This is 2016. 16. Okay, so you have this, you gotta be kidding me moment.
Yeah.
And then in that process, over the course of a weekend, what happens?
Yeah, so every weekend, in addition to working 40 hours a week, every weekend we'd have to be up until 3 a.m. reporting on all of the recruits that we're scouting at that time. We had like lists of people, and like, I'm trying to go out to the bars. I'm trying to go have, like, I was a Rick's person out of my friends, and we had the Skeeps people, the Rick's people.
All right, Rick's people, show of hands. Skeeps people. Okay, Rick's it is, okay.
That was an emphatic hand raise up there, I saw that. But yeah, so I wanted my weekends back, and I built this app that essentially automated all of the research that I needed to do in that time. And it validated anything it could find on any recruits, and it became an extremely hot commodity.
Hot commodity to the point that Harbaugh and company are like, hey, you got something here. This is really cool. We're gonna use this.
Yeah, and so every single coach on staff had that app on their phone. And at that time, I had an offer from Intel to go after graduating to work
This is your
there.
senior year of undergrad.
Senior year of undergrad. An offer to go work at Intel. And it had made its rounds in the football department. And I got called into the associate athletic director of the football team's office one day to talk about it. And I'm like, oh, okay, they're gonna wanna use it once I graduate it. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. I go into the guy's office, who I'm not gonna say his name, and within the first 2 minutes, he's like, oh, you're graduating. Oh, and I'm like, yep, going to Intel, and he's making this fake conversation. And I'm thinking, this is kind of weird. But he closed the door. It's kind of like, it was pretty intimidating. And he said, we're gonna make you an offer for your IP. He kind of just validated everything that I did by offering me any compensation for it. I mean, being on staff, having the experience I did, they were gonna be able to use it as long as I always had a spot back in the department anytime. And when I said no, he, for the next 25 minutes, just berated me, calling me an idiot, saying I'm dumb, essentially telling me that like I'm making a terrible decision, and it's essentially downplaying everything that he was like, we love it, everything's great, we want to offer you this. And he's just like, it's a dumb app anyway. And I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna sit here and listen.
Okay, pause. Shout it out. What are you hearing from that story? What's a takeaway from where he's gone so far with it? It's okay, I see you looking at me. What do you got? You have, come on, green shirt, what do you have? You're staring. Follow your gut. Okay, anybody else? Go ahead. Don't settle for something you don't want. Anybody else? Break it down for him.
Yeah, so the second I heard his reaction, I'm like, I knew one thing, I had it, that this guy was willing to just get extremely emotional about like what I had said no to. And it told me that like I could go elsewhere, and I could go to other schools and they would use the exact same thing. It wasn't just a Michigan thing. That I'm like, because in the back of your mind, I'm like, would this be used elsewhere? Like, do people really want it, or is this specific to Michigan? Long story short, it wasn't just specific to Michigan. It applied everywhere. But I'm sitting there after 5 minutes of this, like, what just seemed like a sabotage session. And like, I'm just gonna let him stew in this, because everyone in this facility is gonna be like, what's going on in there? And it seems it's in those departments, this was in 2016, it was right after the JT Barrett fail, or what should have been a failed fourth down conversion that was a first down, for as many people that know Michigan football history. So tensions were running extremely high in that facility. And yelling was not uncommon. Specifically, Coach Harbaugh he's a passionate guy. Speaking of passion, he's a passionate guy. But this guy, I mean, it rang out in the facility that after 30 minutes of just getting berated, I walk out and it was the offensive coordinator at the time, Pep Hamilton, and Jed Fish, who was a QB coach at the time as well. They come up to me and they're just like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, no, I'm good." And there's like, "Is what happened?" I'm like, I'm just going to end up pulling the app after everyone's gone. And
Hell of an experience.
Yeah.
This is in December of your senior year. You've got, at that point, a situation where you've got an offer from Intel. You've got seemingly a hot commodity that people want with this app that you've developed, and that's kind of been validated, at least by the one client you've been working with. But you didn't take either of those decisions, really. What did you do?
So I wanted to learn a little bit more about the future of what this app could do, because to the point, I knew that I had something. And so I'm like, I really want to stay for one more year. There was a week deadline to apply for SUGS, to go for 1 year grad school, stay with the program for one more year, and just see what happens. And I went into panic mode. I applied for SUGS. I reached out to a professor of mine that he had told me at the end of the semester, when I took his course, like a year prior, he was just like, if you ever want to do grad school, let me know. And I didn't realize that he was the associate dean of the program. And so when I reached out to him, I'm like, do you know who I am? And he's like, yes, of course, I remember who you are. And he's like, what do you want and how can I help? And I said, I need to apply for the SUGS program, and I need to do it within the next 48 hours. And he was like, I got you. And I had an interview with the dean of admission for the SUGS program 5 days after I decided to turn down Intel and to stay. And they asked, why are you doing this and why did you apply so late? And I said, in full transparency, I want to stay with the football program and continue to build this app and learn from it and like see where it goes, because I truly think there's something here. And it's like, but what brings it to engineering? I'm like, everything brings it back to engineering. So like, it's still extremely applicable to me. And he was just like, it's great candidness. We'd love to have you. And the next day I was accepted.
So you're being very humble. When you turned down this offer to Intel, this is an offer, you were the only Michigan student, you were the only non-comp sci graduate that is being offered to come on to this new team at Intel to do sports analytics that they want to fund, and they're going to bankroll to roll out. It's you, a bunch of kids from, soon-to-be graduates from MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, Carnegie Mellon, all that.
Yeah, I was also the only undergrad. I forgot to mention that to you. Everyone else was either PhD or grad. And yeah, not being the only, being the person that's not comp sci and not a grad student, I was like, I'm just gonna have to fake it till I make it. I was concerned, but they were so gung-ho about me joining that there's like, you're the only one that has this experience that we could really utilize. And I'm like, all right, sounds great.
So you make the decision to turn this down. Was there any part of that before you decided to turn it down that you factored in kind of an analytical process of, if I take Intel, it means this. If I stay here for grad school and work on the app, it means this. The opportunity with the app could be this, or like, did you validate the market for the app? Or was there anything other than kind of your gut and your passion that you went with?
So luckily in football, everyone moves. It moves around. And the 2016 team, there were 4 coaches that became, they spread around pretty high up, and I knew that I could always get in contact with them and see their staffs. And so staying with the school, I knew I could see how that looked in terms of validating the market and seeing how it could spread.
And, to something you heard from Kurt earlier this semester, so many people look at entrepreneurship or launching a company and they're like, oh, that's so risky. That's so risky. I'm risk adverse. I don't know if I'd want to do that. Every choice you make is a risk. Going to Intel would have been a huge risk that would have flopped 2 years down the road and put him in an entirely different position. So you decide to stay. You go ahead and continue to iterate on the app. You iterate on its development. You understand more about the user base, both from the athlete recruitee side and the people who are using it on the football team here at Michigan. Yep. You get to a point where it's pretty refined, but then when you leave Michigan post-graduate degree, you didn't just launch all into the app and make that your everything.
No. I essentially had 2 full-time jobs.
Okay.
The app was like a side business. I went to Northrop Grumman, I had no idea what the defense contracting world was like. I got the job because the guy who came out to Michigan during the career fairs was like, I'm a huge fan of Michigan football. And I'm like, do I have stories for you? And he is just like, I'm gonna write your entire application and I'll get you through everything. And I was like, oh, perfect. Like, I can still just continue to work and do everything, and this guy's gonna do the whole thing. He ended up being like such an incredible resource for me. That I was like, this guy's awesome. And if there's a company that's filled with these people, I'm just gonna really enjoy my time. And at the same time, I'm like, it also afforded me the opportunity I have a very strict time because it's government, 9 to 5. Anything outside of that, government has to pay extra, and they hate paying extra. They hate paying overtime, so I don't work outside of those hours, and I'm good. And yeah, it was good salary, great benefits, and I was able to work on this thing on the side, really hedging my bets. But to your point, even in terms of every decision you make is a risk, when I left Northrop Grumman to decide I'm just gonna launch this platform, All Athlete, I was like, I have a job for life if I want it. But that's a risk because I feel like I can't grow that much in this position. And I feel like there's true barriers of like, one, bureaucracy sucks. I hate bureaucracy. There would be days where I just sat around because someone in one building over just didn't check an email or didn't check any of the paperwork that I sent to their desk. And I was just like, I can't just sit around. I'm sure everyone out here has that same thing where it's just like, I'd rather be doing something than twiddling my thumbs. And it drove me crazy. And I weighed the risk. I was like, okay, I'm starting to work with more and more athletic programs. And either like I can see myself 1 year from now making this amount and having this position and potentially moving to Utah for a different project, or I stay in this place. I don't eat properly for the next 6 months because I'm just working. But like I'm still getting like all this stuff, and I was lucky because the pandemic also kind of fed into that, where it wasn't real life at that time. And I had that liberty to be like, oh, I'm not gonna change clothes for the next week. So I weighed everything, and I'm just like, no, this is the decision.
Okay, so you decide to make that decision. You leave Northrop Grumman, middle of pandemic, go all in on the company. At the same point in time you go all in on the company, you start to notice that user behavior is telling you a little bit of a different story. What was it that you picked up, and what did that tell you about your customer base, your potential customer base?
Two separate things. So when we started, Eric was telling me that one of the biggest things that's taught is customer analysis and making sure that you make money and everything. And so during the pandemic, we were working with like Duke basketball, Coach K. We were working with Coach Harbaugh. We were working with Dabo Sweeney down at Clemson. We were working with, you name it, we were working with them. And we're like, oh, this is perfect because we're working with people that will pay for it. And they were all excited. They wanted exactly what we were developing because we were developing it with them. When push came to shove, we did not expect the bureaucracy that came into play. And so we had this B2C side and this B2B side, and the B2B side was like, it was all the coaches, it was the athletic departments.
Business to consumer, business to business.
Yeah, and it was like, the coaches are gonna love it, and this is great. And we'd have coaches be like, we put it in front of the AD's face, and it's up to them to decide. And it was just an extreme barrier to entry from that B2B side. And I was always against charging people to use the app because I'm like, when I was a high school athlete, I'm like, I don't want to pay for something. Like it's part of the issue with this industry is that like everyone's just trying to make a quick buck. Every single athletic camp that exists out there, they're selling data on the black market to just pay for everything that they put together. And once you see the inner workings, you're like, it's so screwed up. But the fact of the matter is, and I didn't see this at the time, the fact that everything was done pen and paper, even in 2016, made it very, very obvious that there was a huge reluctance to move forward, and it was held up by bureaucracy at the highest levels within colleges. And so ultimately, we had coaches join individually, and they paid. It was much less than bringing in entire departments. But when we ultimately developed this AI measuring tool that was to allow for like these virtual combines, we had a massive shift in user behavior where it was all about athletes getting recruited, and then we started seeing people that weren't athletes, and we saw people that were they just wanted to see their body measurement. We actually, my wife, when we launched it, she was like, it'd be funny if we just go to a bar and I'll have my friends ask guys how tall they are. And they'd be like, they'd find guys that they knew they would say 6 foot, even though they're definitely not. And they'd say, we'd film it and we'd say, how tall are you? They say 6 foot. And we'd be like, can we measure? And then their jaw would drop and they're like, sure. And then we'd measure them and they'd be 5'10" or 5'11", and then we'd obviously have to get their permission to share these the videos, but they started posting on TikTok, and it had some viral momentum, and that started launching more and more people outside of the athletic spectrum to use the platform. And it was something that was like staring me right in the face to be like, I don't know if athletics is the best thing to use this measuring stuff for, because there's so many hurdles, and we felt that. And even with coaches using it, having like a little bit more momentum, there's something that's telling me that like there's a field that's really, really pulling us in, and it was this fashion e-commerce realm. And it was identifying that and identifying it early on, where I spent a month doing customer analysis, market analysis, to really identify. I'm like, okay, what is this? What is this space? It was last January, by the way. Last January to mid-February, I was like, what is this space? What do I need to know? How is it going to change? Am I overestimating, underestimating, like, the usage of it? And after a month and talking to a bunch of people in the space, I kind of covertly, I was like, nope, this is the play. And so we spun off the company Fytted, really going into my expertise in terms of the measuring, my wife's expertise in terms of the fashion, and seeing where it could lead. And it's been really cool to see, because I always thought, product market fit comes from identifying like the market and saying, okay, there's going to be a fit here because nothing exists in this, and like working with the people to be like, this is what you want. And also being in the industry where I'm like, I know this is what we need. This is exactly what we need. And it wasn't until we launched Fytted where I truly understood what that meant, which is that product market fit isn't something you can manufacture. Product market fit is a result of the overwhelming response that you get. I think I watched some of the recordings that you sent, and somebody said it isn't until the 30-day trial where they come back and say, I can't do this without this product, where you know that you have fit. I mean, yes, that's true, where someone can't live without it. But when you have companies coming to you at all times a day asking, how can we work together? How can we get this? We're working with a whole lot of brands. And
he's not allowed to say all of them, but you'll see them soon.
Yeah, you'll see them soon. And there's a lot of true momentum that's happening, and like we're just like, okay, we gotta take a step back. We have to do this pretty like intently, and we have to focus on this growth and be able to like handle it. And we're a small team. We're 5 people at this point, but there's right away with this, and it only continues to grow.
So students, shout it out. Why would these retailers, these brands, these e-commerce giants be approaching him? Sorry, 1 second. What do you got? Exclusivity? Somebody up there? Save money on returns. All great answers. Love them all. Greg, what is the TAM, total addressable market? How did you identify it? And ultimately, how are you positioning the value when you're talking to these retailers about what you can either generate for them or save them?
Yeah, so everyone was right about that. Initially, it's the returns. Return market's $38 billion market of returns just in 2023. That number grows every single year. It's about a 12% growth. The
The cost of processing returns for the retailers, $38 billion.
It's actually the cost lost in returns. The cost of processing the returns is about north of 50 billion. And it's because of the fact that you can't actually, you lose the cost of, or the revenue of the clothes just as a standalone, because it's so much cheaper to just toss the clothing item than it is to refurbish it and resell it. So 80% of all clothes that are returned are actually in a landfill that year. Resulting in it's 9 billion tons in clothes that are just tossed, and it's a lot. And so we focus on the return side, but to the mobile side, they love the fact that it isn't just focused on being on their product page. The fact that we're focused on like the consumer and addressing the average shopper. They love the fact that we have this desire and this push into like your own personalization and like your everyday use, where you're not just encountering a little button on a product page to say, what's my size? Can I try this on? And they like that it takes it with you. And to the small business part, we want more clients. So what does that mean for them? The big companies come in and we're just like, here's our pricing strategy. And they're just like, oh, that's great. And we're like, yeah, so you'd fall into this category. Oh, that's perfect. But like, we don't have this budget. And I'm like, well, we can cut it down a little.
And another component that you might not expect of this that I was surprised to learn is that, the thought of returning a clothing item isn't just carbon neutral, is the costs, and it otherwise produces carbon to ship it back and otherwise discard it and the like. So there's actually an ability here for companies to make a carbon-friendly play.
Yeah, it's a massive carbon-friendly play. And I mean, the common shopper has become a lot more eco-conscious, and it makes a massive impact on their decision-making when they're shopping. And also, I don't know if you guys have been to like USPS or UPS recently, but I feel like those lines just have gotten artificially just extremely long and extremely like time-consuming, and it's such a pain in the ass to wait to send back returns.
Yeah, I think we all hate it. Ben Moisen, are you out there? I think you are. Oh, way up there, okay. Keanu, would you mind? Ben, you had a question about the measurement system. And while Keanu's going up there, Greg, you have co-founded a company with your wife. My God, you're a brave man. What is the lesson to be learned, and what would you say about you? What makes you a great co-founder?
The thing about finding a co-founder is make sure that they really don't overlap with you. She and I are like, we're very similar in so many different ways. Our business backgrounds are entirely different. She's a creative. She's in fashion. She's in the entertainment space. And she's an executive producer for film and TV.
Sounds just like Northrop Grumman and Michigan Engineering.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. And I'm over here dealing with how many monitors am I using today? And I'm just like, I love coding. I love like pretty much anything that has to do with like tech and improvements in everyday life. And she's just like, what about this? I'm like, I never thought about it like that. She has a very strong business background. So most people say don't go into business with family. I've never felt better about going into business with my wife. She's awesome.
What a great statement. Okay. Ben, what you got?
So my question is, I had sort of two questions. How does your measurement system work? The FAQ says AI, but are you using like the iPhone LiDAR, True Depth, or something proprietary? And the second question is, why did you pursue the business-to-business market as opposed to the customer market for Fytted?
Yeah. Funny story. So the measuring system, it's trade secret about it. We had a provisional patent on it that was filed last year, but if I were to tell you how it worked, kind of ruined the trade secret part. in terms of the B2B, we were never expecting to go to B2B, to be quite honest. It was just addressing kind of the shopper behavior, where it's like we had return piles from Amazon, or like my wife had Aritzia, or like companies like that. And we're just like, we're so sick of seeing it that we're just like, let's see if we can build something that's just for the average shopper. And we went to get more data from these brands so that we could get like accurate clothing sizes and brand sizes. And when we were pitching it to them to get their product feeds, they were like, can you do something for us? And we were like, what's that? And they're like, can you build us something like this? So if you're interested in it, like, please let us know. And then after about 10 meetings of the brand saying that exact thing, we were just like, all right, we have to launch it.
That's great. Sloan, are you out there? Sloan Kaplan?
Right there.
Great. And students, if you have questions, go ahead and raise your hand as well.
You kind of like touched on this before, but how did you market your product to catch the attention of big time corporations? Would you say it's luck, or was there certain strategies that make big businesses or investors take you seriously and spend on your product?
Are you asking about the retailers?
Yeah, like there's like, I guess like there's thousands of different apps and companies in the world, but like how did your company actually get the traction and attention of these big corporations versus those others?
Yeah, of course. So it's definitely a mix of both. It's strategy on how to find them, but luck in terms of timing. We're in a massive boom right now, where everyone is just trying to find ways that AI can really improve your bottom line. And so there are teams of business development managers for these larger brands that are actively searching. And we had a lot of these brands come to us and say, we're really interested, let's hop on a call. I mean, it's every other day we get inquiries from brands.
What's one or two strategies that you've used to break through the door?
It's going out and trying. It's being in the room. My wife's dad has this one. He has a bunch of sayings, but one of his sayings is just be in the room and find a way to put yourself in the room, because you're not going to get deals done outside of the room. And so going to events, going to these expos, or even just going to the store, you can really strike deals. People love in person, to be extremely frank about it. Like, it's a lost art, and I'm sure you guys get like automated emails every single day, and you're just like, why am I getting these emails? These emails are trash. And it's saying my full name, which I never use my full name. Why is it doing this? And when we go to the store, they're like, oh, you're a human. That's awesome. Like, yeah, like here's my card. Let's hop on a phone call. Let's meet for coffee, and we'll be able to strike up something that way. But the human element is huge.
And thank you for being in the room on a 70-degree day. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the day. See you next week.